Welcome back, everyone, to another episode. It's your host here, Annalena, and today I have a special invitation for you and also a nice little backstory of how this invitation all came about, which is the True Sidereal Summit that you can join for free. And it starts on December 8th all the way through December 13th. So, what is this all about and how did it all begin? So, I started to learn about this thing called human design a little bit over 5 years ago, and it absolutely changed how I approached my life, my business, because this one big realization I had was that we're all different, right? What may work for one person may not work for me. And I had always tried to find answers outside of myself. I thought that there's something wrong with me because some people had immense success doing things a certain way, following a certain blueprint or five-step process. And then I got really frustrated because it didn't feel right to me. It wouldn't work. And I was like, maybe I'm not made to have my own business or something like this. But then I realized, oh my gosh, like we are all really meant to be different. And it's all about, I have to really trust myself. And there were other things like learning that I have multi-passionate traits, which I had always known my entire life. And rather than suppressing those and thinking that these are actually hindering, I actually used them to my advantage. And I really tapped into this freedom to be myself. And I never looked back from this point because rather than working from limitations, I started to see myself unique and expanding into who I really was. And the priority really for me became I'm doing my business, I'm living my life in a way that feels right to me. It didn't happen overnight, but it was this continuous permission slip that I needed to do things my way. And it was also immensely life-changing for lots of my clients. But then over time, I also started to notice that sometimes or often we can also use these systems like human design and many other modalities, including religion, I think, against us, right? Where we actually see something as a limitation. And with human design, this can happen very easily, where we can say, oh, because I'm this human design type, I cannot do this, or I shouldn't do this. And it becomes a box, again, of limitations. And that for me was like, oh, no, no, I don't want to use human design like this. I actually resonate with so many things, even things that are not specifically said about my particular human design type that I was per my human design. So I created a very flexible, open-minded approach to how I saw human design. I really saw this universal wisdom in each body graph, and in particular, these 64 archetypal energies. They really spoke to me. And I found traits that I learned about the human design types also in different gates. And so I really realized, yeah, we are a blend of all of these archetypes. And yes, there are certain themes that stand out at certain points. So I felt that I was going a little bit against the grain because I wasn't quite adhering to the very traditional, rigid way of what you often find in human design textbooks or what you read online about human design. But I was like, if there's one thing that human design taught me, it's like do it my way. And I luckily also had amazing teachers that kept reminding me that I'm not here to replicate something that has already been taught in the exact same way. I'm here to create my own way, right? That's what originality and that's what creativity really is. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then somehow it wasn't to my surprise that at some point my clients brought up sidereal astrology in one of our calls. And while I had heard about it before, and at the time I didn't have much interest, I was just like, I'm not interested. I don't really care what's tropical sidereal. Like I just know like I like human design at the time. But that shifted, and at some point, I had this body response where I had this like huge curiosity and was like, yeah, of course, I want to know more about it. And when I started to really look deeper into it, I started to really understand, okay, what is tropical astrology? What is sidereal astrology? And how does this influence the human design body graph? And then I learned that tropical astrology is not really representing what's actually up in the sky. It's a fixed way of where the sun actually was 2000 years ago. Now, there's still a lot in common with, how our astrology chart actually looks like, but it's literally shifted in the sky. And that was a little bit of a shock to me, to be honest, because I was like, what do you mean? Like, if somebody tells me that I'm an Aquarius sun, that means when I was born, the sun was an Aquarius, right? I would never think anything other than that. But I learned that is actually not the case in tropical. Oftentimes it's about a whole sign difference. And then I learned about sidereal and I started to investigate online and I found a lot of people that had already immersed themselves into this topic years before I did, because for me, this happened a little bit over 2 years ago as I'm recording this. And I was so fascinated, and I realized there's actually something called True Sidereal Astrology by Ethan Schimanti, and he had been doing this over a decade already, educating people about the actual placements in the sky. So when we say a full moon is in Taurus and you look up in the sky, then the full moon is actually right in Taurus, right? And that just resonated with me to the core. I felt home. I was like, yeah, this is the first time that astrology actually resonates with me. And I knew always that astrology is behind human design. But again, I didn't really question it too much, or I didn't even want to know much more. But when I learned about true sidereal and the difference to tropical, I was like, okay, now I'm really, really interested how this changes the human design chart. And again, there were already lots of YouTube videos about this out there, people that had already gone down this little rabbit hole that I was in myself at the time. And we already had a way to actually calculate human design charts. It was still a little bit of a work in progress, but with these actual calculations of what is really happening up in the sky. So this meant that my human design chart using true sidereal astrology calculations was completely going to change. With that, your profile can change, your human design type can change, your defined and undefined centers can change. Everything can change. And for me, because I already had such an open-minded perspective, like when I looked at a human design chart and let's say you were a generator, I would already tell you like, yeah, you're a generator, but you also have a lot of initiating energy in your chart, like a manifestor, or you may have a lot of projector energy in your chart, right? So I already saw how all of these energies play out in a particular chart. And so for me, it was not that crazy of a shock. I was more honestly excited about it. And I just felt that this true sidereal version of my chart, I saw it as a new perspective of looking at myself. I still saw my tropical chart and I was like, this was great. This was absolutely life-changing. I'm so grateful for this. But I could also see that there were certain things in my chart that I stayed in my comfort zone. I was more in the shadow. I was more holding back, not fully in my power. And I thought that was interesting too. And then with the true sidereal version of my human design chart, I felt really called out in certain ways. And I felt very, very empowered. And to be even more myself, to be even more boldly who I really am and not holding back, no more people pleasing and all these things, right? So it just felt right. And again, I had learned from human design that the one big message is here that I'm here to trust myself. And through following my human design of trusting myself, that gut feeling, it led me to true sidereal. And yes, there was a lot of people saying that that is wrong, you shouldn't do this. This is not what was originally taught by Ra. But I was like, okay, but then I'm going to be stuck in my head. And I have learned from human design that the head is not here to figure things out. If I'm in the state of rationalizing and making sense of things, of why I should take a certain action or not do something, then I'm actually not following my authority. I'm not following my truth. And I am here to follow my truth. So I went full into the world of true sidereal. I was a little bit scared, I have to be honest, because I had also built a business using mainly tropical human design. And again, it was absolutely a game changer for me and my clients. But guess what? There was a next level. There was an evolution. There was change. And it wasn't to my surprise that for the longest time, which is also something that I learned through human design, in particular, gate 35 or the 35th gene key, that the only constant we have is what? Is change. And so it's like, yeah, of course. Also, this human design is not here to stay static for the rest of time. It is here to evolve. It is here to change. Because as we grow, as we evolve, as we question things, we come to certain realizations. We see what feels right, and things shift. So this is how it all came about. And then, of course, I started to also see the response with my clients. And the majority of my clients told me that they felt there was something like not right in their tropical chart at some point, or they were trying to fit into certain things just because they felt like they had to, because that was their human design. And they wanted the true sidereal from me, right? And we never went to this place of like one is right or wrong. I don't think that's actually the question at all. It is more like, as you evolve as a human, you get to decide what you resonate the most with. And where I was going, where you guys and my clients have been going with me, is more into the direction of the true sidereal version of human design. And the response and the encouragement that I have received from all of you over these 2 years has been overwhelmingly positive, and many people have been messaging me and asking me lots of questions about it, and also telling me how thankful you are that I had the courage to talk more about it, because there are many of you that knew about this way before I did, when I wasn't even interested in anything sidereal, right? And I just then came about and I wanted to share about my experience, because for me, human design is an experiment. That's, I think, the big message that has always been out there. And my experiment has led me to True Sidereal. And how awesome is this? Not everybody's may go there, right? I want to remind us we are all different, the science of differentiation. What I've been observing is there's a growing number of people that is really, really drawn to this true sky calculations for astrology, human design, and also for the gene keys. This is not to make the other thing wrong. This is just like, hey, this feels right to us, so let us have some fun with this and explore and experiment with that. So this was going on for already like about a year, and then it was last year, 2024. I think it was around in September, where I felt this super strong pull. You know, one of those moments where you can't sleep and you just have this like inner clarity that you have to do something. And for me, it was like, I'm gonna create the True Sidereal Summit, you know, and it was so easy. I started to reach out to some of my colleagues, of course, Ethan, some other people I've been working with, also clients, to share their own personal stories. And in a very short amount of time, I had all my speakers for the summit together. And what I did very intentionally is that I created a small summit, because I have also been parts of many, many summits over the years. And I always find that less is more. I get very easily overwhelmed and also exhausted when there's too much information and I'm kind of scattered all over the place and there's very little focus for me. And then I kind of withdraw. So it's like, I think my people are probably very similar to me, and I'm just going to do the summit also in a way that feels good to me, in a way that I would actually want to be at the summit and consume this content. So I decided to have only 12 speakers plus me, so we are 13, which is also quite nice, because in True Sidereal Astrology, we are using 13 signs, including Ophiuchus. And so there were only 2 or maximum 3 interviews per day. And you guys loved it. You told me, oh my God, I cannot wait for next year's summit. I think we had about 500 people registered last year. So it was such a beautiful experience. It literally felt like play to me. And you were asking, when is the next one going to be? And I was like, okay, of course, we're going to have another one. So this is why now we are just entering into December of 2025, and we have the second annual True Sidereal Summit starting next Monday. I am so excited. We have again 12 amazing speakers. We have some of last year's speakers, including Ethan Chimenti. He's the founder of True Sidereal Astrology. Then we also have again Richard Mason, the creator of cosmic human design. He was literally the first person that actually created a calculator for true sidereal human design charts at the time. And then we're also going to have this year Dr. Dani. She's a physician astrologer. So in her real life, she's delivering babies. And then she's also teaching astrology. And she's actually teaching us about the life-changing magic of Venus. We also have Pippa Cage. She's talking about Vedic astrology and the importance of the moon. We also have contributions about Pluto. We have some personal stories and also, how to work with both tropical and true sidereal astrology. So it's really like a very open space where you can explore, because I know many of you may feel a little bit shocked. I have heard this from many people, and I totally get it, because in a way, it's a little bit of an ego death, right? Where we have been so used to this one human design chart, or even like your astrology birth chart, for example. And all of a sudden, some people are coming like, well, this is all going to be different. Like, no, your Capricorn sun or your moon sign is actually not what you think it was, and things like this, right? And what it has shown me actually is how easily we humans can also get attached to things, right? We over-identify with certain archetypes very quickly. And this now gives us a different perspective, and to also learn that we don't ever want to over-identify with archetypes. And whatever helps us to really, step into our truth, that's what matters. And also that while I was talking about this over-identification with archetypes, you're never just one archetype, right? Like when we're saying like, I am an Aquarius sun, like, okay, so everybody that's an Aquarius sun is going to feel the same? Probably not. Every chart is so incredibly unique, and there's so many different archetypes in a chart. And for me, this whole shift to true sidereal is that life somehow is presenting this new chart to me. There is a message there, there's a story in each chart. And the amount of freedom and clarity that I see with my clients that are open for this expansion is just so profound. And this is why I feel so passionate and so called to share this wisdom with you all through the summit, and also through different perspectives, right? Because I see it in a certain way. There are other people that had different experiences, and this is simply an invitation for all of you to learn about it, see what resonates, see what doesn't resonate. If you want to continue working with tropical, if you feel like you want to maybe incorporate both, see how this works, or maybe you feel called to fully dive into true sidereal and also share this more. Maybe you also have a business where you work with human design, astrology, or gene keys. And maybe you're listening to this right now, it's the very first time you're like, what? Sidereal? True sidereal? I didn't even know there may be a difference. And I think you're going to be in for a very exciting journey. You will find all the details below here in the show notes, where you can register for free for the summit. And if you are one of those people that wants to go a little bit slower and take in the content at your own time, there's also a VIP access pass that you can claim right now and until the last day of the summit for 50% off. I will also link this, but once you register, there will also be an option to upgrade to this. And also during the summit, where you will join a free community to connect with everybody that's part of the summit, you will still have access to the VIP access pass on until December 13th. One thing that's also kind of a beautiful coincidence is that when we start the summit, the sun will just have entered in the sky, if you really look up, Ophiuchus. And you will learn this a little bit more during the summit, but this is seen as a galactic center where really like all the healing happens. And there's one particular contribution with Isaac Rodriguez where he's sharing all the discoveries he has made with or about Ophiuchus. Like he has traveled the world, he has traveled to ancient Egypt and the ruins and the temples. And there's so many eye-opening discoveries. Like honestly, I want the whole world to know about. It's so incredibly fascinating. And he's a guy that used to have a very successful corporate job, or wasn't a very successful entrepreneur. But at some point, when he realized what's happening up in the sky and what mainstream media is telling us, he was like, this is my path. So he has been really following this guy, I think, for over a decade now. And yeah, so this is going to be on day one. You will learn all about Ophiuchus as the sun is in Ophiuchus. And it's really my intention that this summit is really here to bring a lot of inner healing for humanity, where we can uplevel our frequency and really live in alignment with our most authentic self. Because for me, this whole true sidereal, true sky, what's really straight up in the sky, in essence, is about living in alignment with nature rather than focusing on something that's not there yet, where we're kind of rushing into the future. So it's all about being more present. And I think that's also where we can become the most powerful manifestors in all of this. So, with that, because I could go on and on and on and on because I'm so excited about it. You're invited to join us, see if it's good to you. Again, everything is down in the show notes, and I hope to see some or maybe lots and lots of you in the community for the summit. With that, thank you for being here as always. I'm sending you so much love and blessings, and I will be back with you on the next episode. Ciao, everyone.